Welcome to Talking Technology with NCBI Labs, where we believe that technology is the single greatest enabler for people with sight loss and all disabilities. If you are interested in the latest technology news, products, and innovations, then you've come to the right place.
Hello and welcome to Talking Technology with NCBI Labs. It's episode 37 after a wonderful bank holiday weekend. Did you do anything exciting? Hope you enjoyed it. It was a great one, but one with kind of dodgy weather, I think it's fair to say. The weather was a bit all over the shop across the country here in Ireland anyway. But that aside, hello, welcome in. Hope you are enjoying the day so far, and hopefully you'll enjoy the next hour of really exciting news. We've got a really exciting podcast ahead today. Really exciting stuff. But before we get down to talking about Soundscape Community, and we'll tell you all about Soundscape Community in just a bit, we wanted to tell you a little bit about a cool new way that you can listen to Talking Technology from NCBI Labs, because going forward, we're going to be streaming the podcast absolutely live using the NCBI Live radio service, which you can, as always, find on ncbi.ie/live. Now, NCBI Live is a 24/7 online radio service for those with sight loss. It's got all sorts of great content from technology, advocacy, podcasts on just life with sight loss in general, all sorts of great content. But now you will be able to listen to Talking Technology live using that too. So if you tune in to NCBI Live on a Tuesday at 2:30, you will hear the podcast. And you can also tune in using your blind shell phone. You can check it out in with your Dolphin Guide. If you're a Dolphin Guide customer, it's available on the Radio Garden app, which of course is accessible with VoiceOver. So there are tons of ways to listen, and of course you can always visit ncbi.ie/live if you want to listen too. So we really hope you enjoy listening to it with NCBI Live. We're finding our feet with that at the moment. So if you do have any feedback, and indeed if you've any feedback with anything related to the podcast, please do send us an email to labs@ncbi.ie, because we really would appreciate your feedback. So let's get down to the podcast. We've got some really exciting stuff coming up today. Do you remember this?
Welcome to Soundscape, lighting up your way with sound in 3D.
Microsoft Soundscape. Wow, it feels like so long ago now since I heard for the first time that cool little tutorial sound and that tutorial when you used to open Microsoft Soundscape. But in an NCBI Labs live event on the 4th of August 2021, Microsoft announced that their Soundscape app, which was designed to help visually impaired people navigate the world, really, was going to be coming to Ireland. But just 495 days later, in a bid to try and get on to the Talking Technology Christmas special, Microsoft, well, they announced that they will be pulling the plug. But it wasn't all bad news, because if you listened to that podcast when we discussed this before, you'll remember that Microsoft made the code for Soundscape open source, which meant that developers, if they wanted, could take what Microsoft had built for Soundscape and turn it into something new. And that's what we're here to talk about today. We are here to talk about all things Soundscape Community, which is a really cool new project. And to tell us all about it, we're joined on Talking Technology by Aoife and Jarnell. Hello and welcome, folks. How are we?
Hi, David. Aoife here. Thanks very much for inviting us on.
Thank you very much for joining us. So, Aoife, we'll start with you. I guess, first of all, what is Soundscape Community?
Okay, well, David, I might start with just explaining a little bit about the Soundscape app itself. Sure. I know lots of people are already familiar with it, but just for those who don't know what it is, it's basically an app that provides a 3D spatial audio information on your surroundings. So it works straight out of the box. When you download it onto your phone, all you have to do is enable your location. And if you're using headphones, you'll have to switch on your Bluetooth and connect that. But basically, what it does is call out locations of interest or points of interest as you are walking through any location. So, David, you and I are in Cork, so we might focus on Patrick Street here in Cork, which is the main street.
Yep.
If you were walking down Patrick Street, for example, it would call out Brown Thomas or Penny's or a Starbucks or any of the points of interest that you were passing. The beauty, really, of the 3D audio is that if you're wearing stereo headphones, the location, if you're passing Brown Thomas on your left-hand side, it tells you on your left-hand side through your left ear that that's where Brown Thomas is. If Penny's is on your right, it comes in through your right ear. So you know exactly where all of those locations are relative to the direction that you're pointing in.
Yeah, it's really cool and a really great design of a system. And that, I guess, was what people will be familiar with from the traditional Microsoft Soundscape. But that is nearing the end of its life now. It's shutting down at the end of this month, I believe. But as we were saying there, the code for this was open source. So that kind of brings us on nicely, I guess, to Soundscape Community. So what happened here? Do you want to tell us a little bit about how Microsoft Soundscape led to Soundscape Community? And do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Well, I suppose Jarnail will probably be better positioned to tell you how we came to this point in Soundscape Community.
Sure. Have we got your audio there, Jarnail?
Yeah, hopefully.
Hello,
hopefully
welcome.
I'm coming through.
There you go.
Hi,
we can hear you loud and clear.
Hi, David. It's good to be back.
There you go. You were on that original launch podcast, I believe, back in August of 21.
It's almost 2 years to the day, so it's kind of nice to come full circle and be on the cusp of sharing more about what we've been doing. And with respect to the community, so once Microsoft took the decision to open source and then sunset what was Microsoft Soundscape, and of course there were sort of implications for the various team members involved with that, and I guess formally officially left Microsoft in middle of February earlier this year. But of course, one of the things that I was really, really keen to do was to make sure that all the work and all the effort that we'd put into this over the last 10 years, that once the code had been open source, that we somehow found an opportunity of trying to revive it, because we knew that Microsoft was going to continue to provide access to the service for a limited number of months. And one of the things that ended up doing was to reach out to a number of close partners and collaborators that we've developed really strong relationships with over the past few years, and just ask that very simple question: would you be willing to spend some time, put in some effort to see if we can find a way of keeping this going? And actually, NCBI and Chantal Smith, who you may remember from the launch, was probably, I think, the first person I reached out to. And the response from NCBI and IA Labs has been absolutely fantastic in terms of involvement, support, advocacy, advice, guidance. And that in turn, I think, has really helped a whole host of other partners as well to get on board. So we're working with ONCE in Spain, which of course is a massive pan-disability focused organization in Spain. We're working with a number of technology vendors in France that we've been working with, a design company in the US called Pixel Space. And another really very strong partner has been Capital Region Nordic Alliance in the US, which focuses on adaptive sports experiences. So these organizations, along with actually former members of the Soundscape team like myself, Amos, Stephen and Fraser from the test team. We've all been clubbing our thoughts, our efforts, our expertise over the last few months. And we were then also joined by the Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in the US and their open source program. And one of the key individuals there, Sheldon Jackson, who are graduating, set up his own company to be a part of this consortium. And we've been sort of working together to find a way of keeping this going.
So, what So, what did that lead to then? So there's lots of partners involved, and I guess this isn't a project, obviously, that happens overnight. This is a massive project. You mentioned there that, Soundscape was a project that you were working on, and colleagues in Microsoft were working on for like 10 years. So what has this led to, and where are we at now?
Anifa, please jump in. What this led to, as you can imagine, for all of the organizations and partners involved, to a large extent, this has been a labor of love, because it was in nobody's thinking 6-7 months ago that they'd be involved in working together to get Soundscape back out into the market again. And so initially, over the last in the early months, a lot of it was really spending time with each other, getting to know each other, the different members of the consortium, understanding their capabilities, their motivations, and what each would bring. So that took a little bit of time. And then, of course, we actually started the development and design work, along with producing a website and so on. And because all of these organizations were doing this almost as a volunteer effort, we were slowly building that rapport and that relationship and building that momentum. And we got it to the point, I think, in sort of early May that we had a very early version up and running that looked and felt very much like the old Microsoft Soundscape.
Yep. Then,
of course, we had to think about, how do we do this at scale? And around this time, we also came across, and some of you may have heard of OpenScape as well, which was, it turned out, a separate open source initiative, once again, designed to revive Soundscape. And so we reached out to them, and over the last couple of months, have actually spent a lot of time getting to know each other. We discovered that our goals, that our objectives aligned really well. And in particular, I guess, over the latter part of June and most of July, we've actually spent a lot of time integrating our separate efforts into one app. And one of the things that we wanted to do was to kind of avoid that situation of having multiple versions of Soundscape out there. So hopefully through, I guess, what we're calling Soundscape Community, we'll be in a position to announce something exciting in the very near future.
And where did the name Soundscape Community come from?
That's an interesting question, David. So Soundscape, I suppose by definition, is a sound or a combination of sounds in any given area. And that's exactly what the Soundscape app is. It paints a picture of a landscape in sound. So we added community because that's exactly who came together to develop it, following on from Microsoft's releasing it onto the open source. So as Jarnail went through the members of the consortium there, it literally is a community of co-founders, of app developers, of experts in adaptive sports, of people with vision impairment, tech experts, O&M experts, all coming together as a community. So I suppose that's how we landed on the name.
That's really cool. It really is a community, and lots of work by lots of different individuals. And I guess it encompasses the visually impaired and blind community too, in a way, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, yeah. It has taken comments and feedback from anybody who has tried it. The beta version has gone out to be tested on people who were experienced in using Microsoft Soundscape, and any comments and feedback is welcome.
So, go ahead, John.
Yes. Okay. Just to add to that, I think being part of this, I guess, open source community, once we sort of are a little bit further down the road, one of the things that I think we're really keen to encourage through this community component is people who may be interested in technology development or application design, is to sort of join the community, because there's so much expertise and experience in the community and people willing to help either learn new technologies or grow existing skills. And we're hoping that over time, this will also be an area, a community where people will be able to learn and collaborate perhaps on different parts of Soundscape.
It's a great way to get technology experience too, isn't it? You know, like people can find their feet with whether it's coding, design. There's so much to Soundscape, isn't there?
Absolutely, and I think this is one of the massive benefits of this open source opportunity, because obviously, while at Microsoft, this would have been really, really quite difficult to do.
Yeah.
But by being an open source project, it, I think, opens up all sorts of new avenues to encourage and invite contributions and participation from folks all over the world.
So on that note then, I guess, Soundscape Community, we should say, it's not available yet. We believe that that's around the corner, Jarnell. But I think, you know, with something like Soundscape Community, how can visually impaired people be confident that this is going to be around long term? How is it going to be sustainable? That, you know, we don't run into an issue, you know, a year, 2 years down the line where something similar happens to Soundscape Community as happened to Microsoft Soundscape. How can we be confident that the, you know, app Soundscape Community, after it launches, is going to be sustainable long term?
That's a great question, and I want, obviously, which is, I think, very close to the heart of the consortium organizations and individuals as well. And I think one of the things that's been driving us here is that all of the partners and all the individuals involved are genuinely committed to this space. I mean, we've got some of these organizations like Akenia in France, who've been working in this space for 30 years. We've got NVibe also in France, who are creating innovative new technologies that they're building their business on, and so on. So I think that genuine commitment and investment to working in this space is a hallmark of the different organizations and individuals involved. We're hoping also that a key measure of success will be our ability to be able to generate that community involvement and engagement and participation. And, for example, having these support be provided through the community, I think, is a great way of keeping people involved and also getting feedback in terms of what's working, what isn't working well, what people would like to see happen, etc. And in many ways, it creates more and more future momentum. And then equally, I guess from a business point of view, we're also thinking, given some of the organizations involved, is there a way that we can utilize this technology so that we're able to almost create a revenue source that pays the consortium to host Soundscape-inspired experiences? And that, in turn, will then allow us to reinvest into making sure that for people who wanting to make a contribution are kind of compensated for it, and allow us to make sure that the underlying infrastructure required to support and maintain the technology has a source of funding over the longer term. So we're hoping that through these qualities and through these measures that we're setting ourselves up to be around for a very long time.
So the app, as we say, it's not out yet, but on that note, what does the future look like down the road from launch and then after Soundscape Community launches? What are we looking at down the road?
No, I was just going to say, well, our immediate sort of priority, as you can imagine, is getting version 1 of the application out there.
Yeah.
And that, I think, in itself will give everybody involved a massive boost in confidence. And then after that, it really will be, I hope, a question of, okay, how do we get this to more people around the world? And how do we make more people aware of this? And as you know, with any sort of technology, the opportunity to add new features, new experiences, new capabilities is something that almost sort of seems to happen naturally. But how do we do that in a community-driven way? But I think for now, in the short term, it's very much a case of let's get it out there. Let's keep our fingers crossed that everything works well, everything holds up. And once we've sort of got that under our belt, so to speak, then start thinking about, okay, well, how do we get this out to more people? And how do we make this more relevant? And certainly one of the conversations we've been having with Aoife and Chantal and other mobility instructors is, how do we make this an absolutely indispensable technology for people in blind and low vision community?
Fantastic. So I guess then, how can people help now? Is there anything that you're looking for at this point that you want to direct people to, or should just people kind of wait and get excited for this, which is around the corner? How can people get involved now, or is there ways that you're looking for people to get involved now?
David, probably hopefully it is out in the near future. That the app will be released in the near future. So if people just refamiliarize themselves with it, as Jarnell said, because it's a consortium, I suppose the freedom is there to take on any feedback, to take on any suggestions for how it could be developed into the future. For example, I'm very excited about how it'll be used in sports and recreation. Sure. There could be developments that will enable people to have landmarks or to have markers or beacons around a park run, which would enable people to be more independent around the run. It could be available on greenways. So it's something that could be used by anyone. And because the app automatically detects what speed you're going at, if you're traveling on your tandem bike, you're not bombarded by as much information as you would be if you're traveling more slowly. The information comes in at a consistency pace, really, relative to your speed. It has been used by people who are kayaking across lakes to do that independently, to be able to navigate like that independently. So people are free to make any suggestions on how it could be used into the future.
And you hit the nail on the head there, because it's incredibly versatile in that you can use it, whether you're just navigating to the shop or going kayaking. It's got incredible versatility in that way. And Joe, I think, is there as well. And both Joe and myself have been users of Microsoft Soundscape. I'm sure we'll be users of Soundscape Community down the road too. But Joe, we were saying earlier on that we use it in totally different ways.
Yeah, that's right, David. Thanks for having me. I suppose I use it more of just a point of interest finder. It's as it's an amazing app, by the way. So instead of, we'll say, asking who I'm with, what I'm passing, I don't have my son or a friend or whatever. I can just hear what I'm passing on my left and on my right, and it'll say you're passing by the Bank of Ireland, or you're passing by McDowell's Pharmacy or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So that's the way I use it nearly all the time. I very seldom use the beacon. Some people love using the beacon. I'm not a lover of it, but it is useful if you need it.
Yeah.
Generally, when I'm going to get directions and stuff like that, I just use an external map, like Maps, But I find the points of interest part of Soundscape amazing. And setting a marker, of course, for I suppose, dangers like steps down that I may forget about, or overhead branches that your stick doesn't find, of course.
Yeah.
Your white cane doesn't find. So you can set a marker with, say, 10 steps before that, and you've got your heads up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's if you use Soundscape a lot, it comes in useful in that kind of situation. I think it's really interesting as well, the Nordic factor, the adaptive sports. As Aoife was saying, you could see it being built into that. I think blind golf as well is another sport I used to play. I will get back to it again, but I used to use a GPS system for that, and obviously they have that marked out in a similar way, so it tells you how far away you are from the green and how far away certain hazards are, and whether they're on your left and your right. I'd be interested to know if there's going to be ever any adaptation in that kind of department. We could have a golf soundscape or blind golf soundscape or something like that. They're things, as you were saying, what's the future? I think that would be a nice place to branch out into sports for blind people like that.
That's really interesting, Joe. And we are working with Vision Sports very closely. So that's a really good suggestion. I'll be bringing that back to them for sure.
Yeah, I never thought of it in the golf context, but it's a great suggestion, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it is. It probably does work in GPS in a lot of ways. So there is lots of golf GPS apps out there. But if we found one that was even more accessible than some of the ones that are out there, it would be great. But David, you were saying earlier that you use the beacon more than any other part of the app, is that right?
Yeah, and it's fascinating, isn't it, how like we use it so differently, that you were saying you kind of rarely use the beacons. It was, for me, like the beacons in Soundscape single-handedly got me to the NCBI Christmas party. Like, you know, it's one of these things where that would be the way I'd use it. Or even recently, we were traveling down to West Cork, and I needed to get off the bus at this specific hotel that I had never, like, in a million years heard of before. So I just set it as a beacon, and as I arrived, I could kind of listen to the distance between me and the beacon getting lower, and I knew as I was getting closer that I was getting close to that stop, you know. So there are the ways that you can use Soundscape. It's quite incredible in that way.
Yeah, it is, and I didn't try the Siri shortcuts in a while, but when obviously, and the original Soundscape Siri shortcuts was an amazing thing to have as well, because you don't even have to go fiddling around with your phone. You can say, you know, set marker here, and then you can just click done, and it'll set a marker with your voice, and you can maybe find out where you are as well with just a voice command. So especially if you have the AirPods Pro and stuff, you can, with the Siri commands, work hands-free on those. So them kind of things, there's a lot in the app when you really go through it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there is. I think, David, for people who may not be familiar with Soundscape, it's probably worth explaining what the beacon is. So it's an audio call out, I suppose, really, isn't it, that you place on a particular marker of interest. And if you are wearing your stereo headphones, the beacon sounds at the location of the beacon. And if it's on your left-hand side, you hear it through your left ear. If it's straight in front of you, you hear it in front of your head. And if it's on your right, and you can hear it moving as you turn with your phone in relation to the location of the marker. If you're using head tracking headphones, you can put your phone in your bag or in your pocket. It doesn't have to be out in your hand. And that's another beauty of Soundscape, is that the phone it doesn't have to be out pointing in the right direction. With the headphones, I suppose, as an O&M instructor, I would always recommend that people use either bone conducting headphones or other headphones that have a transparency mode. So you're free to listen to all the environmental sounds that you might need. And a benefit of that as well, as Joe said, you might be walking down the street with your son, chatting with him, but you can also, with the bone conducting headphones or the transparency mode on other headphones, you can also be listening to Soundscape at the same time. It doesn't take away from your participation in society.
Sure.
I think that's a really good advantage of it.
Absolutely. And to that point, Aoife, how does something like Soundscape then as well assist and I guess complement someone's normal mobility skills, whether they're a cane user or they work with a guide dog? How does something like Soundscape enhance that experience?
That's a really good word, David. It enhances the journey. It doesn't replace anything. It doesn't replace the need for mobility skills. It doesn't replace the need for a mobility aid, but it enhances your skills. It provides all the information to you as you walk down the street that's available to anybody who's walking down the street. As Joe said, you're not relying on the person that you're walking with to tell you what you're walking past. But at the same time, it doesn't give you too much information, because it's not giving you step-by-step or turn-by-turn directions on how to get somewhere. You don't have this constant feed of information. So you can still have the bandwidth to focus on what information is coming in from your cane. You can still communicate with the dog. It doesn't demand too much focus from you, even though it's providing you with a lot of information. It can also be an interesting way to if you're learning new routes, or if you're doing some training with an O&M instructor, you can add in a kind of a treasure hunt type route training, because you can put markers on the points of interest, and the marker could be at the door of the office that you need to get to, but it can also be on a bench in the middle of a park. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be a building location that you can put a marker on. It can be, if you're going for a walk on the beach, it can be the point where you walked onto the beach from the path. So you know that you're coming off the beach at exactly the same point. On a featureless landscape, you can drop a marker, and you can always hear where that point is if you put your audio beacon on it. So
it makes
it's
those
fantastic.
Open spaces that bit easier to handle in a way, because that can be a struggle for a lot of people. It's grand when you're on a path, but in an open space it can be tough sometimes. So it does a lot in that way, doesn't it?
It's fantastic, yeah.
So, folks, thank you so much, I guess, for joining us on Talking Technology. It's a really exciting time ahead, I guess. I think it's fair to say when we found out that Soundscape from Microsoft was going to be sunset going back in December, I think it was a time when people were a bit nervous in some ways about what's this all going to mean. But it's fantastic to see that it has been taken on, and credit to you guys, because it's exciting times ahead now. So is there any final words that you'd just like to add before we finish up?
Sorry if I just really quickly. First of all, a massive thank you to all of the collaborators, the supporters in the consortium, and in particular, I know that NCBI are.
Jarnell, your audio is dropping there slightly, unfortunately. Aoife, do you want to just pick up where Jarnell was leaving off there?
Well, that's what I was just about to say as well. Thank you to everybody who has brought it this far. I'm literally just in the door on this app. I've just joined the Soundscape team very recently, but I think I'm joining at exactly the right time because it's going to be an exciting time in the very near future, as we said. But thank you to everybody who has been involved, and Chantel within the NCBI, and everybody else who's been involved so far.
Fantastic. Jarnell and Aoife, thank you so much for joining us today on Talking Technology. And I'm sure we'll be discussing Soundscape a lot in the future. It's a really exciting app, and it really has become, even now, a really important tool for visually impaired people and blind people using that tool for navigation. So it's great to see that it's hanging around, and well done to you guys for keeping it going. So With that said, if you do want to get more information about Soundscape when it launches, or maybe you need help installing it or whatever once it launches, as I say, you can as always get tech support from the NCBI by sending an email to labs@ncbi.ie, or you can give us a call. The number that you need is 1-800-911-110. That's 1-800-911-110. Exciting times ahead for Microsoft Soundscape for sure. But for now, let's pop over to find out some more exciting news with Talking Technology News.
This is Talking Technology News.
With your latest Talking Technology News, I'm JP Corcoran. Microsoft Soundscape is being resurrected. As Talk Technology listeners just heard, a consortium consisting of NCBI, IA Labs and others have used the open source code to rebuild the app, and a launch is just around the corner. This is just in time too, as Microsoft planned to pull the plug on the original Soundscape app at the end of the month. Soundscape Community will have the same interface as its predecessor, unlike Voice Vista, which has gone with a redesigned interface. It's exciting to see competition in the navigation space, and this will hopefully lead to advancements in technology benefiting blind and vision impaired users. In other exciting news, a rumor about the upcoming iPhone 15 Pro has the potential to be a game changer for those with disabilities. While it's just a rumor now, it's speculated that an action button will be replacing the mute-unmute switch, with the button having the ability to control accessibility features on the phone. It will also reportedly be able to trigger shortcuts, so this dedicated button might be able to control your smart home or perform actions that currently use the triple-click accessibility shortcut. Apple is expected to announce their newest products, including the iPhone 15 and 15 Pro, on an event on the week starting the 12th of September. So be sure to check out all the content from NCBI Labs around the event, around this event time. Finally, for now, a new study by Stanford University and UC Berkeley has suggested that between March and June of this year, AI tool ChatGPT has got substantially worse. Its ability to solve maths problems using the GPT-4 model went from 97.6% in March to just 2.4% in June, with drops also being noticed in its ability to answer sensitive questions, generate code, and do visual reasoning. It's not great news for the controversial chatbot, but on the upside, it might be good news for us mortal humans, hoping to still maintain a semblance of control over the world we live in. ChatGPT has never been perfect. Indeed, it did tell us on a previous episode of Talking Technology that blind people could listen or could learn to defuse bombs, but by shaking them and listening to their components. But seeing the tool get worse over time is an interesting development that few expected. That's it for now, but if you want more technology news from a more accessible perspective, you can sign up to the NCBI Labs Technology newsletter using your My NCBI account on the NCBI website. For now, though, it's back to David.
Thanks, JP. Yeah, that's
My
really that's a really weird story, isn't it? That ChatGPT is getting worse rather than better.
I was shocked by that, David. You know, I remember earlier on in the year I came across an article from Goldman Sachs, the banking firm in the States, and they had reported, I think it was about 300 million full-time jobs were at risk of being affected by the ChatGPT AI chatbot. And I remember thinking, God, this is big news at the time. Yeah. And everyone was a bit worried, and to some degree would be. But hearing this, it's a major shock.
It's weirdly comforting in a way that it's not going to replace us just yet.
Not yet, no. But it's interesting as well. I was at a conference in June in the RDS in Dublin, the Dublin Tech Summit, and they actually had the co-founder of Siri attend one of the events and host one. It was a call. It was a conversation on really the risks and potential benefits of AI and machine learning. And basically, it was about they had about 300 people in one large auditorium. And he asked, well, can someone put up their hand who actually uses ChatGPT, in their work environment? And there was kind of maybe about a quarter of the audience put their hand up kind of reluctantly, kind of looking around to see if anyone would catch them. Yeah. And he said, well, I can tell you, a few years' time, if you're not using it, you won't have a job. He said, you have to use it. This is like part of, he wasn't saying, oh, use it all the time, but he said, just consider it, bear it in mind when you're working that this could be a useful tool. So there's probably a happy balance when it comes to it. But as that report suggested, it's not always accurate, so we can't fully rely on it for information that it's going to be 100% accurate as well at the same time. So
for sure,
it's interesting. Yeah, interesting developments there.
How are you feeling about the possibility of an action button on the iPhone 15 Pro? Do you think it's... are you a fan of the
I'm really
switch?
Excited about it. I think it's...
Are you? Yeah.
It's Apple's way of kind of differentiating the Pro Model 15 Pro from its other variants.
Yeah.
I like it as well. I know we did pick up a Apple Watch Ultra last year that we are reviewing, and we're going to have some information about that. I think in a future episode. And I think it's a similar principle, isn't it? It's being able to have one trigger to, for example, turn on and off your accessibility features, and that'll be fantastic. I know from the perspective of when I'm doing, for example, an assessment on a service user who's coming in for the first time with their iPhone and they're getting it set up. And when I show them, for example, VoiceOver, or I show them, for example, Zoom or one of the accessibility features built in, or even to go down further to go looking at an app like Seeing AI and what that can do. But if there was a button on that phone to trigger it, make it so straightforward to be able to turn on and off those features, that would be such a game changer, I think.
Yeah, and even, that use of Siri shortcuts. And I know Joe mentioned shortcuts earlier. Like, I think in one of the recent podcasts, Joe was showing off that he had set up a shortcut that controlled his robot vacuum cleaner. And it's incredible to think that you'll have a dedicated button on the iPhone that might be able to, turn on and off VoiceOver without the need for triple clicking, or you might be able to just press a single button and off your robot Hoover does it too. It's incredible.
It would never be so straightforward to Hoover your house, would it?
No, it's amazing. You can just sit back, throw on the telly, press the Hoover button, be unreal. Really excited. I really hope. Do you know what? I'm really in a position where I think I'm going to upgrade this year, and I'd really, really love to see that feature. I think it's got huge potential.
I think so. And I've talked to a number of people who have thought it will be the exact same. Some big iPhone fans, and even though they have, maybe an iPhone 12, 13, they'll still upgrade to the 15 if that is the case, if those rumors turn out to be true and it does comprise of the action button.
There you go.
Hopefully it will.
So, JP, thanks so much for bringing us Talking Technology News. Daniel usually does the Talking Technology News, but how did you feel standing in? It
was okay. I'm looking forward for Daniel to be back next week.
Oh, there you go. You did a great job. Thanks a million, JP. So, there you go. If you have Talking Technology News for us, as always, send us an email, labs@ncbi.ie. We always appreciate hearing your news, so do send it in to us, and who knows, it might make it to a newsletter or a Talking Technology News segment in a future episode. But for now, it's Quick Picks time.
It's time for NCBI Labs Quick Picks.
And on Quick Picks duty this week, we got Joe. Joe, you're back again. How are we?
And David, good.
Good. So, Joe, exciting ones this week, based around the kitchen.
Yeah, I said we'd pick some kitchen products this week. I work with a lot of smart home stuff in the kitchen and that, but this time we're going to keep it simple. I suppose when you lose your eyesight first, it can be difficult to pour hot liquid from a kettle or hot water from a kettle or any kind of a jug or anything like that. But a great product I've discovered in the recent past is the 1 cup dispenser, which is like a kettle basically, but it dispenses 1 cup at a time. So this stops you spilling maybe hot water on the counter or even on yourself, and it fills up 1 cup at a time, and it's really easy. So basically I think you fill up the thing with roughly 1.5 litres of water, so it will fill up roughly 5 cups of tea, or mugs if you prefer a mug of tea. So you can vary the size that it dispenses as well. So you can have a large cup or a small cup or a cappuccino sized cup, you know what I mean?
And does it do the boiling of the water and stuff itself, or how does that all work?
It's actually boils within a minute because it's small. It's a smaller amount of a smaller volume of water fits into it. So it says 1 minute to boil, and it has a filter in it as well for descaling filter. I suppose the most popular one that comes up when you do searches is the Breville model. If you ask your Amazon smart speaker to search for 1 cup dispenser, it will come up with the Breville filter 1 cup dispenser, and it's roughly €80 or something like that. I think I've seen it in Curry's for €69. So that's the kind of price range, and it's a good kitchen product to have on your counter, and I think it'd be great for people who like their cups of tea. We were also discussing earlier a more basic option for checking is your cup full with hot water or any other liquid for that matter, is the liquid level indicator. These are level indicators that you can hang on the side of your cup, and when you pour liquid into the cup and it gets near the top, it'll make a beeping sound. This item, personally, I it's okay. I still prefer the 1 cup dispenser myself, but if you don't have it or you didn't want to spend the money on it and you were happy with the kettle you had, the liquid level indicator is another option. You might have used them in the past, David, yourself, I think.
I haven't actually, but I only stumbled across them again. I'd always been aware of their existence and stuff, but I stumbled across them in a YouTube short there over the weekend, and I noticed like that they can vibrate and stuff like that. And I guess the advantage to something like that versus something like the 1 cup dispenser is that, you know, you can use it for literally anything. I mean, you might have your 1 cup dispenser set up to do the tea or whatever, but if you just want a quick drink in the middle of the night, maybe it's water or whatever, you know, you can fill, if you have, say, drinking tap water in your area, you can just fill it up and you have an idea as to when it's, you know, you'll hear a vibration or hear a beeping sound when it's full up, which is a really cool.
Exactly. They both have their uses, and I suppose the liquid level indicator is more portable. You can throw it in a bag or whatever, you know, whereas the 1 cup dispenser sits on your counter like a Nespresso machine, you know. It's actually similar looking to a little coffee machine, and you place your cup underneath the nozzle. It sits there, has a little tray in case there is, for some reason you might have set it wrong and there was an overspillage, or you might have shook the cup when you went to collect it off the dispenser. There is a little tray for water to go in as well. So it's really safe. 2 great products, and hopefully it'll keep people safe when they're in the kitchen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Nothing worse than getting boiling water on the hand.
No, there is actually nothing worse, David. You're spot on there.
I'm so lucky I drink milk rather than tea, because I just don't need to be dealing with that on a regular basis. But Joe, thank you so much for bringing us quick picks, and JP, thanks again as well for talking technology news. That is it for episode number 37. Lots in this one, especially around the new Soundscape Community app that is right around the corner. Really exciting stuff. I'm really looking forward to that. So do let us know what you think. You can, of course, listen to the podcast back on our YouTube channel or on any of the podcast apps, your Spotify, your Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're on all of them, so be sure to subscribe wherever you do get your podcasts. But for now, thank you so much for listening. If you want further support from the NCBI for technology or anything like that, do email labs@ncbi.ie. Or, as always, you can give us a call. 1-800-911-110 is the number you need. 1-800-911-110. But for now, thank you so much for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. It's only a short one. We get a short week this week. So enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks' time for another episode of Talking Technology. But for now, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Talking Technology podcast with NCBI Labs. If you would like to support our show, you can visit donate.ncbi.ie. The NCBI Labs Talking Technology podcast is proudly sponsored by IA Labs, the market leader in the provision of digital accessibility services.